Well, hello everybody and welcome to the channel. This is David Bianco. Today, it's an Analogue Productions Atlantic 75th Series release that we're going to do a vinyl shootout on, and it is from Crosby, Stills, and Nash, their debut album, also called the Couch Album. Let's see how this one fares against the competition on our Safe and Sound Texas audio excursion. So I reviewed this album back when the MOFI One-Step came out in early January of 2023. As a matter of fact, it was my first video of that year. And it was interesting because I came up with a really peculiar outcome in terms of what I found. The record had a lot of variances in it that had to be identified much more discreetly than usual. So as a baseline, I want to go back here and show you a few snippets from that original review to set the stage for this one. Now we have the Crosby, Stills, and Nash, which frankly wasn't a particularly well-recorded LP in the first place. It really is somewhat lackluster. I believe there are some recording issues, some miking issues, some distortion that's there that can't be taken out. And so it really is different now, because now you have an album with its origins being weaker, that we are through this process with making an audiophile, trying to make it sound better purely through a remastering process, not a remixing process, not a plangent process on top of it, but purely remastering.
I think you was a glass is half empty kind of guy, am I right?
So obviously, we begin with that presumption or with that baseline that we had from the last review. And I also, in that review, had to put up something whereby I was separating the MOFI and saying how much better was the MOFI than the other versions. And it came down to there were aspects on certain songs where things were better in the musicality or instrumentation part, and in other areas it was better for the vocals. And so the chart you're seeing is one that I put there at the end of the video back in January of 2023 to kind of give some perspective, because really this is a hot mess. I mean, you go with the original, I went with the Bernie Grundman 2009, I went with the MOFI, and now with the Analogue Productions. And so the question's going to be, of course, is the new one better? Does it help this? Does it smooth things out? Does anything really get reconciled with this release? And I know that's what you're here to find out. So what we have here is now a release that is coming through Analogue Productions that Bernie Grundman remastered. The same Bernie Grundman who did the Rhino in 2009. Now granted, that was a 33 RPM and the new one is 2x45, so there are some cutting benefits to that. And I'm even going to show you the difference here on one of the sides, comparing side A on the MOFI and on the Analogue Productions. And you can see on the Analogue Productions there's a lot more dead wax and kept it away from that inner groove distortion that you get closer to the center. Now the MOFI has a lot of dead wax too, but definitely the cut was done differently than the way MOFI did it. But as it goes to the sound and the sonics and the voices on this, it was amazing, almost astonishing how some of the issues that really were a problem before were smoothed over to a large degree with this mastering effort. And for me, it was really surprising in the sense that there's so much warmth and so much context to what's there in this cut compared to what there is before. I mean, the MOFI in relative terms just sounds thin. It sounds brighter. It doesn't have the meat and the bulk of the voices and some of the lower notes on the guitars. And so this one really brings a lot more warmth. The Bernie original had that as well, but the detail was not nearly as good in this 33 RPM Rhino 2009 that came out versus the Analogue Productions. So the truth of the matter is, this is one of those where I could say, take all the other versions, sell them, and keep this one and be done with it. I mean, it just really is that satisfying. The lusciousness of the sound on Guinevere, for example, just melted. It was just amazing, as well as some of the other slower songs, Lady of the Island, Hopelessly Helping, the song where the vocals really get you from all sides. It really was much more precise when you compared them, and the ability to flip quickly between the two and have a 8 to 10 second difference between the two and hear it repeated in the other cut versus the first one you listen to really gives you that contextual difference. And it really was quite amazing. And I really give Bernie a shout out. I know a lot of people say, Bernie's getting old, and he's older, and we all are, and he can't hear above this and he can't hear that. But boy, I think this really is the sweet spot for this particular record, unless it gets some sort of a remix and we start at ground zero with that. Kudos to Bernie, kudos to Chad on this one, because, I honestly didn't expect much because it's such a hot mess, as I said. But I was really pleasantly surprised with what came forth, and I'm really glad that I made the investment in these Atlantic 75s. All the ones I've listened to, whether I've reviewed them or not. I mean, it's like Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare. Not a favorite album of mine. I like Alice Cooper somewhat. Didn't have anything to compare it to, but boy, it sounds fantastic. And I've seen other people who have compared it, and they thought it is the one. So really a lot of home runs being hit here. And on this one, it's one that, I didn't have a lot of high hopes for. But doggone it, sometimes things just get hit right where they need to be. And that's what happened on this one. So I'm proud to say this Atlantic 75th Analogue Productions is the one to have if you want the best sounding copy of Crosby, Stills, and Nash, the Couch album. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Clicking on the bell and picking the all option for notifications. And a like is great for thumbs up on our algorithm, as well as comments. What do you think? I hope you all know that this is something that I really take seriously. I spent a lot of time listening to this one again to really get a good read on it. And the good news is I didn't need to do a song-by-song comparison or whatever, because I think across the board it really did better. This is definitely the one to have. So for now, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time on our next Safe and Sound Texas audio excursion. Take care, everybody.